Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Looking at your column today, you seem to be blaming Tony Blair for all of this. Explain, please. What's going on?
Yes, I pointed out that in 1997, what Tony Blair did was he changed the hours of Parliament. So not only did we no longer have all-night sittings, but gradually the sitting hours were reduced until now. They're not much more than, they are a bit more, but they're not much more than ordinary office hours. Well, you think in ordinary offices what people do is they know the people on the same floor, they know the people with whom they work on projects.
Yes.
But there isn't a general bonding, as we now say. In the days of the all-night sittings, everybody was too exhausted to work after about midnight. So they'd congregate. They'd congregate in the restaurants, in the bars, in the cafeterias. They'd congregate and they'd talk. There wasn't anybody in the Conservative Party that I didn't talk to in those circumstances in those years. We got to know each other. We got to understand why people were doing the things they were doing. And that has been completely missing for the new intake of Tory MPs, worsened, of course, by all the restrictions of COVID.
Well, what's interesting as well is that since many of the new MPs have come in back in the 2019 80-seat majority, I guess many of them won't have spent a great deal of time in the House anyway because they've been working from home, zooming in, and it's a place you know very well, Anne. I know slightly better than most people, but not as well as you. It's a very sort of sociable atmosphere. It's a very interesting place to actually work. It's not like any other place of work I've ever been. And I would imagine if you're not actually living and breathing it 24 hours a day, it's not really working.
I mean, that's quite true. I mean, what we've got here is a perfect storm, really, as far as the new members go. You've had the COVID restrictions, which meant that they haven't got into the collegiate atmosphere of Westminster. Secondly, of course, you had a whole lot of people who came in winning seats that were regarded as unwinnable and merely testing grounds for would-be MPs. They're now suddenly in power and expected to act as if they've got a whole load of experience. And then you've got what I call simply the panic button approach, which is they haven't lived through these sorts of situations before, where things could look absolutely desperate one day and look completely different a couple of months later, which is why I've been focusing on the May elections. I reckon Boris has got from now till May. If he can pull it round, pull off an economic miracle, do all those things in the country, people will forgive this. But if he doesn't pull it round by then I think there is a serious prospect of curtains.
Yes, but that is the thing, isn't it? People who defend him right now say, why are we attacking a man who got us out of the European Union because he had some birthday cake? Well, it's not as simple as that, is it?
No,
and it's not about one individual party. It's about the fact that an awful lot of people suffered, and they suffered quite badly in all sorts of different ways. Some people lost loved ones, some people lost their homes, some people lost their businesses. Lots of people got fined for doing things that apparently were being done in Downing Street all the time. But it's also, for me, a bit of a betrayal of conservative values in that taxes are going up. We're being forced into this kind of mad green agenda, which involves getting out of your car and cycling everywhere and paying a massive green subsidy to a lot of green energy companies because we're supposed to be saving the planet, and a continual failure to make the borders of this country secure.
Yes, I mean, I think that's all true, and I think all those factors are pretty big ones in assessing Boris. Let's not forget he also suffered during COVID. I mean, he nearly died. I mean, he got COVID very, very badly. He didn't just, and indeed he may be, I do not know, but he may be suffering still from some after effects of COVID. But what he really needs to do now, you've made all the right noises. We don't expect Conservative governments to tax. We don't expect them to lose their sense of proportion over green issues. And we do expect them to deliver the levelling up agenda, which is what Boris, one of the two planks on which Boris won the election. The other was, of course, Brexit. Now, he's got to deal with all of that. And to do so, he does need a breathing space. We don't need to be going on about birthday cake, from now till May. We just need to draw a line under that to say, right, the Met's investigating, Sid Gray has investigated. That is it. Now, move on.
Yes. Although, of course, we still await at some point, possibly even today, the publication of the Gray report. I'm not sure what's in that, neither are you. It may well be that there's a whole litany of things that he's done which people will object to. But I'm not even sure that the police investigation is particularly warranted. You know, I can't quite understand why a few weeks ago they said it wasn't warranted. Now it is.
No, I can't understand that either. I mean, it almost looks like a political move, you know, to finally draw a line under this. But in fact, if the report comes out in May and it's damning, it's not going to help anybody. I mean, as I say, I think the time has come now to say, yes, he got it wrong. He broke the rules. Did we not know when we elected Boris that this man was a maverick, that he did break rules, that he doesn't behave according to the social norms? I mean, look at the state of his marital disarray. He doesn't. And we knew that when we elected him. And in a way, it is one of the reasons why he was elected, because he was different, because he seemed to be a maverick. Well, you can't suddenly turn around now and say, oh, but we didn't know that. We knew it.
Well, except that he didn't maintain his maverick status apart from sort of behind closed doors, if you like, because he suddenly turned into somebody who was issuing instructions. I mean, I haven't done it, but I would do it if I was making a documentary about all of this. I would go back to all these dates when these parties were going on, and I would cross-reference it with the Chris Whitty, Patrick Vallance, Boris Johnson press conferences of that particular day to see what he was saying, because I could guarantee you that they were saying all manner of terrible things were going on, and why you shouldn't go out, and why you shouldn't mingle with more than one other person if you're outside, why you shouldn't have anybody round to your house, why you shouldn't be able to travel abroad to see your loved ones. You know, all sorts of rubbish, which was not at all the work of a maverick, it was the work of a dictator.
Think back to when this very first started and Boris made certain measures voluntary. He made them advisory. And when he was asked why by a journalist, he said because he regarded this as a land of liberty. Well, that was reversed very, very quickly, and we started being governed by all manner of petty rules. We weren't allowed to make our own judgments, so many of us did. We weren't allowed to make our own judgments. And yes, and that is why people are so angry about it. But I think there are bigger questions to be asked about COVID. I'd like to see the death figures properly analysed. And we're regularly told 150,000 people have died of COVID. Yet there's been no distinction throughout this between those who've died of and those who've died with COVID.
Right.
The figures may be nothing like that. I don't deny they'll be serious, but they may be nothing like that.
Right, absolutely. Well, I said at the top of this show, you know, it's all very well saying, yeah, let's defend Boris, let's keep him in because he's the only true Conservative we've ever had and he got us out of Europe and all of that. He's also the man responsible for running a government which is going to sack people in the NHS for not having double vaccinations, even though we have never done that in the history of this entire country, right? He's also responsible for putting up taxes. He's also responsible for locking us down in ways which are now being judged to have been completely and utterly over the top. You know, we've got Jacob Rees-Mogg talking about how we need a sense of proportion. Well, we could have done with a sense of proportion last year. And they keep saying, oh, but he saved Christmas and he saved New Year. Well, he didn't save Christmas for an awful lot of friends of mine in the hospitality business who had to shut their restaurants because of what Chris Whitty said about don't go to any parties.
Well, he undeniably did. He gave us New Year. When you think that the Scots were deprived of Hogmanay, I think that was a pretty good move to give us New Year.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know, but I do not praise somebody for giving me something which should never have been taken away in the first place, you know.
I'll go with that. But given that the mood was, you know, to carry on taking away, I mean, I think he did at least do that. I think his instincts are in the right place, but I think he was very, very scared by COVID. I think he became a prisoner of some scientists, not all scientists. Yeah. Everybody talks as if there's a complete scientific consensus. I mean, there were actually pockets of disagreement. So, but I think he did his best in COVID. I do not agree with half the measures. You know that. I've said so on this programme.
Yeah.
But I think he did his best. But the crucial thing now is, where do we go from here? And from here, we've got to tackle so many big problems. I mean, the Ukraine goes for that. So there's also the Northern Ireland issue. He's got to get that sorted. He's partly to blame for that mess. He's got to get that sorted. He's got to get the NHS queues sorted out, and that is not the moment to drive people out of the NHS by insisting that they're double jabbed. That is not the moment to do that. He's got to get that sorted out. He's got to stimulate the economy following COVID. He's got to do all those things. He actually can do them, but we need to see him doing them.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right.